The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. And welcome to the show. Good to have you right here. It is Ambitious Radio, hosted by our friend Doug Parker, talking about entrepreneurship and leadership while interviewing interesting people and what makes them ambitious. Now, you know the show wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system. You know, most of the time, small business owners need to personally guarantee any loans that their companies take out. That can be kind of tough to do if you have credit issues. So if you have less than perfect credit, go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for a free credit report evaluation. RepairMyCreditNow.com. Doug, what do we have going on today?
Today we have a fantastic guest. As always, we try to get the best guests, and I met this gentleman a few years back, and he was introduced to me by one of our other guests, one of the first guests we had, Bo Burlingham, that was formerly with Inc. magazine. And Jack Stack is an incredible man that came to Springfield, Missouri several years back and just revolutionized the company and did fantastic things. Jack, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Great, Doug. How are you?
I am doing great as well. I have enjoyed over the years your books and just the concepts that you have, with from the great game of business and then all the different things where you engage people and how you make those things work. But tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little bit about kind of where you came from, how you wound up in Missouri, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago. I came from an Irish Catholic family, and like most Irish Catholic families, if you're the firstborn, and they send you into the seminary or the convent. And so I spent some time in the seminary. I literally failed at the seminary, where the priest called my mother and said, "I don't think your son's vocation is to be a priest." And then went back to high school in Chicago. And my father then told me that I could go to college if they applied disciplinary action. So I went to a Franciscan college, and I lasted to the last day of the second semester, and they called my mom and said, "I don't think your son's vocation is to be a college student." So I then took a train from Quincy, Illinois to Chicago, and I decided to join the Marines during the height of the Vietnam War, because I thought it was the only thing that was going to straighten my life out. And I went down to the induction center and failed the physical. So at 19 years old, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life when I took an inventory. And I thought, well, what are you going to do when God doesn't want you? The education system doesn't want you. The government doesn't want you. And I looked up and saw this big help wanted sign and said, I'm going to go into business and change the world. So at 19, I started on a factory floor, and it was right at the end of the Industrial Revolution, where the Industrial Revolution was combining with the new age, the information age. And I literally, at a young age, got to see both. I got to see 14 years of factory floors and how people thought about jobs and supervisors and leadership. And I got to be able to be put into leadership positions and to formalize my education in night school. And I did a lot of street time, and I did a lot of hard time building things like trucks and tractors, and really became totally satisfied by building things and seeing huge crawlers leave assembly lines on railroad cars to be shipped off to Russia and through the world. And I thought that was the end of the world. I mean, for me, I really loved the idea of manufacturing and creating.
Gotcha. And so now, when you say big crawlers, now tell me a little bit about that. What exactly are you talking about there?
These are mining equipment. This would be road construction equipment. This would be 500 big trucks that would move coal. Okay. We built construction equipment that mined gold. with the
Okay.
big front end loaders with big steel track chains. And so virtually anything you can think about in terms of they would call it today a Caterpillar. In those days, it was International Harvester.
Gotcha. Well, and that's a name that you haven't heard, in quite some time. And that's ultimately, if my memory serves me correctly, as you kind of navigated your way through Chicago, at some point you came to work. Was it for International Harvester, or how exactly did you get to Springfield, Missouri?
When I was that troubled youth at 19 years old, looking for something to straighten my life out, I went to work in the mailroom in the International Harvester factory, which was 26 acres under one roof and a mile each way, and employed 4,000 people under roof. So I really started at the bottom. But I thought what was really amazing during those days that the security clearances were so tight. There was really only two people that got to see the big picture of the company. One was the plant manager and one was the mail boy. So I really was like the second most powerful person in the factory, because I could see everything that was going on. I didn't need a clearance pass to move from purchasing to engineering, or from the engineering department to the assembly lines. I mean, I really got to see. And on those days, everyone kind of worked in their cubicles. They really didn't understand the big picture of the company.
Very good, very good. And you mentioned leadership. So, during that time, I mean, you're getting to go and really go all over this. You said 27 acres under roof?
26, yeah. 26 acres under roof, 1 mile, 1 million square feet.
1 million square feet. So you're going through there, and you are, you're seeing all the goings on, and I love it. As a young man, you talk about that you're getting to have the opportunity to be, kind of second most knowledgeable person there in the place. A lot of kids wouldn't be paying attention. They're just bumping around, especially with the background, as you mentioned, that you felt like that you really didn't have a lot of things going in the right direction. But so you worked there, and then how did you? So then you come to Springfield, Missouri, and what did that transition look like when you got here? So you said it was wrapping up the Industrial Revolution, but then it kind of started transitioning and changing. And we've got about 3 minutes or so left here in this segment, but we could give us a little idea of how you transitioned into SRC, Springfield Remanufacturing Corporation, how that happened, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the great game of business in the next segment. But can you tell us just a little bit about kind of how International Harvester was going down and what that transition looked like?
I was a real young person in Chicago. I was 19, and most of my leadership was military, World War II vets, lieutenants, majors. Command and control was the discipline of the day, and that's how basically we led. And I was a young person. I didn't have any debt. I didn't have any families. I took risks. And as a result of changing things up, I moved real fast. It was like, let's give this kid the problem. So in a 10-year period of time, I actually had 10 different jobs and worked in a lot of different areas. And I was a person that learned really, really fast, is that the more information that we gave people, obviously, the better and faster we could really fix what the problem was. So at the end of the day, they then have this huge problem down in Springfield, Missouri, and they say, look, we want you to go down and introduce them to some manufacturing disciplines. If, in fact, they don't buy those metrics, we're going to have to close the factory. So if you go down and buy a house in a neighborhood that sells houses real fast. And off I go in the 1978 to go down to this factory. And it is probably one of the most entrepreneurial businesses that I'd ever witnessed in my entire life. I mean, the people were beautiful. I came to them. They were loaded with problems. The people basically said, and it's an entrepreneurial community, said, give me the tools to do the job and get the hell out of my way. And I thought, holy Christmas. For a lazy guy like me, this is like a gift. So what I had learned up in Chicago and was able to apply at this particular factory by utilizing the resources, the human resources, the talent that was here, we began to turn the company around. And we turned the company around from 1978 all the way through 1981. And it was that particular point in time we were going to go into one of the toughest recessions the U.S. economy had hit since the 1920s. And it really didn't matter. We couldn't compete. We couldn't compete globally. We couldn't do turnarounds. We were a 100-year-old company that was so set in their ways. The only way that we could survive was to sell assets, and we tried to sell as many assets so we can. We laid off 1,000 people a week for almost a 2-year period of time. It was one of the most agonizing experiences that we all went through, never knowing if we were one phone call away from shutting down the factory, telling 300 people they didn't have a job, and fighting every single day to not give up and at least with any kind of a hope, try to see if we could sustain the organization a long period of time. Those 36 months were some of the toughest times that we have ever experienced in our entire life, just to be able to stay alive.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine going through that. And, out of that, I know some very, very, very good things came. And you mentioned command and control. And as we wrap up here, I want to talk a little bit more about command and control and how, and this is my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but how kind of diametrically opposed to that style, the model that you currently operate is with the huddles and all the other things that you guys do. So we're talking to Jack Stack, the great Jack Stack, the author of The Great Game of Business and SRC in Springfield, Missouri, Springfield Remanufacturing Corporation. We're listening right here on the Ambitious Radio Network. And after a brief word from our sponsors, we'll be right back.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
Home ownership. It's the American dream. It's a goal you've always hoped to achieve. You've spent countless weekends looking for the perfect house on the ideal block. The rates are low and you've saved enough for the down payment. Unfortunately, now the mortgage company says there's a little hitch. Okay, let's be honest. It's a gigantic, gargantuan hitch. It's your credit. And it looks like your estimated house payment will be a lot more.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
As we get back into the show, let's give a shout out to our great sponsors, all3reports.com. That's all, the number 3 reports with an S.com. Many people check their credit every 3 to 5 years when they're financing a home or maybe when they're purchasing a new vehicle. But if there is an issue, it could be too late to do anything about it. So go to all3reports.com to find out more. Speaking of a new vehicle, a wise person once said, lease what depreciates, buy what appreciates. So go to AutoFlex Leasing. They offer a better way to lease your next car. America's largest independent leasing company is AutoFlex Leasing. Doug?
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network. This is Doug Parker, and I've got Jack Stack with us today. Jack is the CEO of Springfield Remanufacturing Corporation, or SRC, out of Springfield, Missouri. What a great story you have, Jack. I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, it's really great to be with you, Doug.
Yes, sir. Well, I tell you what, we talked a little bit about command and control, and it was kind of a military style. And when your life is in danger, hey, I get it. You know what I mean? It's sometimes you just got to save a life and save the country. But when it comes to, where you go to work at every day, people, especially in this day and age, these millennials and others, that is not a model that works very well. So as you kind of came down to International Harvester and took that over, can you share with us just a little bit about the actual transition and the things that you did to transition away from that 100-year-old style of business to the great game of business? We'll talk a little bit about your book as well.
Well, one of the problems that we experienced in terms of command and control is that it really restrained information getting to everybody inside the organization. It was almost as if after so many years of command and control, what we did is we held information so close to the vest because we use that as power or we use that as knowledge. And, so what would happen in a lot of situations is you'd have a problem and nobody really knew that there was even a problem because everybody was afraid of talking about the problem. All right. And so what had happened is that command and control clogged the communication system. All right. Where everybody became somewhat non-competitive and somewhat complacent. Command and control realistically kind of wipes out innovation. And I think any kind of intellectual contribution on the part of a body of people in an organization. when you're having people sitting around waiting for you to tell them what to do or provide a worksheet or job accountability, you get a set of hands, okay? You really don't get the mind. You don't get the creative part of the person, all right? And so with global competition, changed the game for everybody in every industry, okay? And where people were coming up with really kind of innovative ways. I mean, I saw the most incredible innovative waves coming out of Japan when they decided to go after the car market. And they actually had the audacity to ask the customer what they wanted in their car. Can you imagine anybody being so stupid to ask the customer what they wanted? But what was more incredible was that they could then go back and they could go to the people on their lines in their offices, talk about the idea, and then implement the idea, and then come back with a product that was 3 times faster to the market than we ever could imagine because of the command and control system we built up since the early 1900s. Okay, so it was a archaic. It was all our arteries were clogged, and so naturally, what happens is that we lost market share, and that's what created the recession of the 1980s. All right, is we couldn't compete, and the global markets came in with everything they had at us, and we shrunk our markets. So I'm down in Springfield, Missouri. All right, and I'm going to the people of the organization, and I'm trying to explain to them how they're being perceived at an executive level. And I was telling them about their safety statistics, and I'm telling them about their delivery, and I'm telling them about their inventory buildups, and no one had ever talked to them about before. I mean, this was the 17th, the smallest manufacturing company in the hierarchy of international, but these guys didn't even know they were bad. And yet here I was being sent down to close the factory. So I thought, well, maybe it might be unique in order to tell them in terms of where they stand and how they're being evaluated. And all of a sudden we began to open up areas of accountability that aren't typically opened up in a command and control situation. So we taught them safety, okay? We taught them delivery. We taught them cash flow. We taught them margins, okay? And we began to speak a different language. And they found that to be really interesting. And, it was just the beginning of understanding that, maybe in this world there were 2 sets of metrics. There's metrics that you center around making a product. And then there's metrics you should be centering around when it comes to building a company. And they're almost opposed. And those metrics on building a company are not shared with anybody. But yet every job description, every evaluation that we have in most businesses today only evaluate the person in the job. So we began this journey, okay, which started there on that shop floor by sharing information, monitoring it, telling the difference that everybody made in order to improve the situation. And then morale all of a sudden shot through the ceiling. And it was almost as if the more information, the more we broke down the whole idea of command and control, the more we got buy-in, the more we got participation, okay, the more we were able to make some spectacular results. And as a result of those outcomes, they didn't sell, or they didn't close us down. I mean, they're closing factories like crazy, okay? And we went from 115,000 people down to 11,000 people in a 2-year period of time. But this little factory, because of its resilience, okay, because of its ability to be able to innovate and come up with really some unique ideas, they were able to at least stabilize and survive and didn't necessarily get wiped out until one day we got put on the diversified list. And when you get put on the diversified list, you are now condemned, and it's only a matter of time before they close the factory. And so I would walk on the shop floor, and people would be having the latest headline of the plant closing. And they'd ask me questions like, should I get married? Should I have a kid? Should I buy a car? Am I going to have a job? I would go back to my office and ask them, why are they asking me these godlike questions? I mean, can't they read the press? Don't they understand what's going on? Don't they understand that we're not part of the strategy of the entire company, that there is no money? I mean, can't they see that a plant closing is inevitable? And then one day I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I went out to them and said, don't get married. Don't have a kid. The economic reality is that they're probably going to close us. And I looked at every single one of them. I said, 1 of 3 things are going to happen. One is that they will close us. 2, is that if you don't have capital and you try to survive, it's a brutal life. Or 3, they may sell us. And I looked at them strictly from the standpoint of clearing my own conscience, said, do you want to buy the place? Okay, I never had any intentions on buying the place. I was cleaning my Irish Catholic guilt that if, in fact, I got a phone call and had to lay them off, I could at least say to myself, I tried to save you and you wouldn't save yourself. Mm-hmm. Well, little did I know that they selected that they like to make a run at buying the company. And that's basically how the journey then took a tremendous turn in terms of entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity.
You know, you talk about those things and you talk about the different metrics and those types of things. And I know that your book, you gamify, some of those things. So you teach everybody about, the safety. You teach everybody about the profitability, how to read a balance sheet, profit and loss. What do those things mean? And I've literally, been at your place, and, you've got guys that in what we might consider quote unquote the normal world, you go out there and there's guys that are, they got grease on them, they're whatever, and then y'all will have a huddle where you bring everybody together, and these guys come in and they're talking about their numbers, and not just their production numbers, but the profitability, the safety, all of those things. Can you share just a little bit about the huddle and what that really consists of and how you came up with that idea?
Well, in a manufacturing environment, you can time study a gnat's ass, okay? I mean, the metrics to make an engine, to grind a crankshaft, to heat treat it, okay, to send it through a grinder and a finished product, okay, it's just like building a rocket ship, all right? And so you have all those types of metrics in terms of performance. In terms of safety, you have things like incident frequency, severity, days lost, okay? You have all these various measurements. It's easy in terms of whether or not you can deliver the product on time, those things that are totally related to a product or a service themselves, all right? And so when I confronted the associates in terms of asking if they wanted to buy the company, I was kind of hoping that they would sit there and say something like, well, you know how to build a truck and you know how to build an engine, but building a company is not the same as building a product. And they didn't, okay? And so then what happened to me is I had to go out and try to borrow money. And when I went out to borrow money, I could take my blueprints and I could take my safety record and I could take my on-time delivery record and my reduction of inventories, okay? But the financial institution could care less about that, okay? I mean, they were asking me things about accounts receivable turnover, leveraging inventory as collateral, how much I could get on the inventory, what are my days of receivables, what's my margins, what's my inventory turns, and I was lost, okay? I said, so you really don't want to hear about my manufacturing trophies? And they go, no. And they began to ask me these really stupid questions. The first question the guy asked me is, well, when are you going to pay this money back? And I, holy cow, what a great question. I mean, I didn't know. When I went to borrow the money, I didn't know that I was supposed to pay it back. I mean, I thought you paid interest on it. And I was the most economically illiterate person that ever walked the face of the earth. I could make a crawler tractor that could mine gold, but I knew nothing about the metrics of the company itself. And so when I began to have to learn how to do financials, income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements, I started to question myself from my manufacturing days of saying, why aren't we teaching people the metrics of a company? Why are we only teaching the metrics of the crankshaft? I mean, wouldn't we get a better crankshaft if we taught them what it took to make a company great? And what if we appealed to a higher level of thinking in people? Because if that's what we really want to do, if we want them to come to work and not fear and ask questions about whether they should get married or whether they should have a kid or not, why can't they answer that question if we could teach them how to run a balance sheet? Because a balance sheet is what tells you whether the company's going to be secure or not. So we kicked around the idea saying, well, maybe we got to differentiate our thinking here. And maybe what we can do is begin to teach people these financial ratios in the hopes then that they can apply them in their job descriptions and their day-to-day accountabilities and only be thinking at a higher level. We didn't want them to give up the process of the product. We wanted the company to be the product. And so we began to teach every hourly salaried managerial engineer, anyone that was part of the company, that the new thought process will be to build great and sustaining companies. And we're going to let you think the same way any investor in the marketplace would think, how to look at that company, look at its deviations, look at its weaknesses, look at its strengths. And those are the things that we need to be working on if we really want it to be great and we really want to sustain. And you know what? They bought into it like crazy.
And that was back in 1983, right?
And that whole year, 1983.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, after we hear another brief word from our sponsors, we'll be back with Jack Stack. He's the founder and CEO of SRC in Springfield, Missouri. We're going to hear about what's next, what else is he working on, and it's going to be great information right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Hey, ambitious listeners, you hear us interviewing entrepreneurs all the time, and there's a common theme. They want to be more productive and improve their communication. As an ambitious entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. The Ambitious Radio Network recently partnered with Grasshopper to offer our listeners a special discount. Log on to ambitiousradio.com and click on the Grasshopper banner in the bottom right-hand corner. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forwards callers to your mobile phone or others in your organization. Get a toll-free number or local number for your business with multiple extensions. Set up each extension with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get your voicemails emailed to you as an audio attachment or transcribed an email. Keep business calls separate from your personal calls. Plans start at $12 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember to click on the Grasshopper banner at ambitiousradio.com for a special discount for our listeners. Join the over 150,000 small business owners that have stayed connected with Grasshopper. See how Grasshopper works? It's the entrepreneur's phone system. Turn the world into your office.
Back in here on the show, it's Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, are you thinking of expanding your business but don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a new phone system? Consider Grasshopper.com. You get to keep your existing number, you have multiple extensions, voicemails transcribed, and no new hardware. Grasshopper.com is the entrepreneur's phone system. Let's get back to the show with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network. We've got Jack Stack with us today, author of The Great Game of Business and the founder and CEO of SRC Holdings Corporation. It was founded in 1983, and Jack was just kind of telling us how he took it over and changed some things around, and the folks of Springfield were so entrepreneurial, picking up the pieces and putting it back together. Now, Jack, out of all of that just terrible recession and International Harvester kind of going out of business, can you tell us a little bit about the multiple companies that have come out of that? And I think last time I had talked to you about this, it was, if my memory serves me correctly, it was something like 37 different companies have come out of that group of folks. And I think you mentioned something like a share was maybe 10 cents a share, and it was at some points worth like a little bit over 400 a share. But can you share some info on that with us?
We wrote in order to buy the business. Okay, when you work for big companies all your life, you don't make big money, and we didn't have any money, so we really scratched out trying to get the equity to buy the company, and we went from institution to institutions. We wrote over 50 business plans, and just to be able to see if we could get the money in order to buy our jobs. So our priority was basically our jobs. Through divine intervention, we were able to book one of the worst loans in corporate America. We had an 89-to-1 buyout with 18% interest rates at that 1983. So, a lot of people look back at us and said, well, in order to really be successful, you have to have something traumatic in your life. It's got to be life-changing. And, obviously, the debt that you had on your back, that created this new way of thinking about businesses. And, I still hear this today, and I'm in the back of my mind, I'm telling people, I didn't even know we were in trouble. I didn't know what 89-to-1 was, let alone 1-to-1. I just knew we had the opportunity to be able to save our jobs. So what we virtually first started out was, trying to build a company where we could at least provide some security. And I walked into the office and my first day of business, and I had failed to negotiate a IT plan with the parent company. So here I now owed $8.9 million to the banks. I turn on the light and there is no light. Our computer systems are blank, no access to payroll data. And so, or most people would probably run out the door. And I also knew that our bank realized what a leveraged buyout they created. We took out a blank sheet of paper and put an income statement on the bulletin board and said, by God, we may not have a system, but what we're going to do is figure out what these financials are going to look like. And so I started to go around the room on every single line on the income statement and every single line on the cash flow statement. And I asked the person what they were going to do. And it was so eye-opening to realize that on my income statement, there was somebody that was responsible for every single line on that income statement. And I'm thinking about all the job descriptions that we wrote and all the accountabilities. And here it was right in front of us. We hired a guy to sell $16 million, $1.5 million a month. Why shouldn't he have the ownership of that line? And so we filled out that income statement. Then we filled out that cash flow statement. I went, wow, this is really powerful stuff. All right. These are numbers, but they're stories about people. They're stories about what people are going to be doing for each other. All right. And we then began to send those to our financial institutions based on the forecast and the psychic ownership that was created by trusting people to own the lines of the financial statements that are going to make a difference in everybody's lives. All of a sudden, this became really kind of interesting on everybody's part, the hourly people, the salary people. Well, it was kind of tough at first, okay? But what we discovered was that if we could develop an accelerated learning process to get people to understand debt, okay, to understand the bright sides of capitalism, to understand the power of equity, to understand that if, in fact, you really want to build a society of people that brings together the haves and the have-nots, okay, it's not about minimum wages. It's about how to build value and to build equity and to disperse equity based on the value that you create. So we started singing this thing to the people inside the organization. You know what? The more we taught them about business, the more they taught us. Because now they started asking really intelligent questions. They didn't ask on where the mailbox was or how long it took to go to the bathroom. I mean, what they were asking for is what do we need to do better to build the balance sheet? How do we go from 89 to 1 to 1 to 1, okay? And what happens when you begin to build that wealth? Well, the more we got them to concentrate on the business, the more they wanted the information. So that one huddle that we had, that one meeting where we filled out that income statement, that cash flow statement, we said there's no better staff meeting than this. So every single Wednesday for the last 33 years, okay, we've been having these huddles where we bring everybody into a room. We got an income statement and a cash flow statement. We take everybody's stories, we convert them to a number, we put it together, and we give everybody where the company is going. It's no different than publicly held companies that give out financial statements quarterly where they have to tell you the material significance of the company, okay, and anything that's going to affect it. Those are our staff meetings. They are powerful. They're incredibly productive. But what happens is that our people then begin to get the idea of how to succeed in business. And then once we got them turned on to knowing what it took to succeed, they came up with great ideas. And as they came up with great ideas, we were able to spin their ideas off into other businesses. And guess who was able to run the businesses that we created over the last 33 years? The people who had learned from the accelerated learning processes, okay? Because we don't teach this in our universities. We don't teach this in our institutions today. So what we thought we were doing was differentiating our workforce, okay? We turned into an army of capitalists. And they went out there and started to build companies. So we got involved in over 65 companies over the last 33 years, starting them up, building them, integrating them, selling them. And today we've got roughly about 26 companies on the books at this time.
That is unbelievable. That truly is the American dream, to be able to take something that in the most devastating situation, turn it around, hard work, and just putting a process in place and following that process. And as we talked in a couple segments back, the total opposite side of command and control, it was, essentially expose, get into a huddle, just, hey, here's how it really is, and let these folks know. Now, Jack, we got about 2 minutes left in this segment, but I know you've got some resources for other companies that might want to know about what it is that you guys do. One being in September, I think it's September the 7th through the 9th of 2016. You've got the Great Game where you basically go through, it's called Bold Moves. It's your annual gathering of games right here in Dallas, Texas. But and to get registered for that, you go to greatgame.com. We'll put a link to that on the website on Ambitious Radio where guys can go into the show notes and check out. Just look for Jack Stack, and we'll put all this information on the site. But can you tell us a little bit about what someone could expect if they go and they're learning from all the successes that you guys have had?
Yeah, this all started from the standpoint is that once people heard that we were sharing financial data with hourly and salaried people, they thought it was quite radical when we considered it to be somewhat common sense. And people started to call us up and they wanted to attend our huddles. And then our huddles started to get real full because we're just a bunch of good old country guys that just wanted to share this information. And then finally our people said, can we have our huddles back? And so we built a conference or actually a 2-day seminar that people wanted to come in. They could go through this system. Because what we did to accelerate the learning process is that we converted everything into what we call a great game of business. Great game of business, it's about, telling the rules of the game, which is the marketplace. It's about, teaching people a stake in the outcome. It's teaching people all the realities of what it takes to win and all the game. So it is a system that has been developed over the last 33 years. We've really literally brought in tens of thousands of people to our facility. And then about 20 some years ago, people said, well, can we all get together and start sharing each other's stories? And from this one little meeting that we had in Springfield, Missouri, 20 some years ago, all of a sudden we began to have an annual event. And that annual event began to grow, and all of a sudden these practitioners got together, and then there's award-winning companies, and it's just been an unbelievable ride for the number of people that have embraced this system of business, okay, in order to enhance the lives of not only each other, but also the people that they work with. So, yeah, on September 7th and 9th, we're going into Dallas. We're going to the Westin Galleria. Typically at this time, we roughly have about maybe 20% of the people signed up. We are well over 50% on our way. We're just having tremendous results moving into Dallas. We normally had it in St. Louis, and we sell to a capacity crowd. But Dallas has just been absolutely remarkable. I mean, and they have been really fabulous to us. So we're excited about bringing people from all over the world to come in and to be able to share their experiences. And you don't have to kick the tires and look under the hood when you listen to the stories of the people that have made radical changes in their organization and the successes that they've had. It's a real upbeat time.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, I've personally participated in some of the things that you guys have done in Springfield, and I will tell you, it is mind-boggling. Just a radically different approach. But as you said, it really does just make sense whenever you really look at it. So great information, guys. Greatgame.com is where you would go to get registered for that. Highly recommend it. Anything that I have ever participated in or checked out that Jack's part of it has always been absolutely top notch, and things that you can go back and apply to your businesses right away. So great stuff for our ambitious listeners. And if you like what you're hearing and you want to be notified of updates of what's going on via text, you can text the word ambitious to 69922. That's ambitious to 69922. Standard messaging rates apply. You can see the website for more details. And right after this quick break we've got, we'll be right back with Jack Stack on the Ambitious Radio Network.
You get the most for your lease with an Autoflex lease, yeah.
When you start shopping for a car, you go in thinking that this time you're really going to get a great deal. Then the haggling starts. You have to fence with the salesman over the price, then verbally joust with the finance manager over the interest rate and all the extras they want to sell you. By the time you get out of there, you're glad to have escaped with your watch and rings. Stop the insanity. There's a better way, and that's to lease your next car from Autoflex Leasing. Call the leasing specialist at Autoflex, and you'll find that getting your next car can be fast, easy, and fun. Your Autoflex specialist leases all makes and models, both new and used. They'll also pick up your trade-in for an appraisal and deliver your new car to your home or office. Imagine leasing your next car and never having to go to a dealer. Happens every day at Autoflex Leasing. To see for yourself, call Autoflex today at 817 or 972-234-1234 or reach them at Autoflex.com. Autoflex Leasing, a better way to lease your next car.
And we're back in here on the show. It's Ambitious Radio Network, recharging the ambitious mind, body, and spirit, made possible by RepairMyCreditNow.com. You know, having bad credit can be really draining. It's okay to not be okay as long as you're on the road to being okay. Let RepairMyCreditNow.com help get you back on track. You know, many of our ambitious listeners prefer to listen to books as opposed to reading them. Now, with that, we've teamed up with Audible.com to offer you one free audiobook. Just go to ambitiousradio.com, click on the Audible banner on the page to find out more. Back to the show now with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and we've got Jack Stack, and he has been just giving us tons of nuggets of information that we can really, research and apply in our businesses. He's a hard-charging guy, hard-working, and, guys that are ambitious, they go out there and they give it their all. The reality is, though, sometimes they run out of juice a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about how you recharge your ambitious body, mind, and spirit, things that you might do just to kind of get back on track, Jack.
Well, when we first bought the company, and we had all the mounting debt, and we had to worry about harming one soul in our company from, the burdens that we experienced in the acquisition. We worked a lot of hours, and we were getting to the point where I was beginning to lose hair, and it was kind of stressful. And I was walking as if I had a third leg, and then I went to the doctor, and they said, well, you either have Lou Gehrig's disease or multiple sclerosis. And I said, well, I think I better get a second opinion. And I went to a neurologist. He tested me out and said, man, you got stress. He said, if you don't do something about this stress, he said, you're going to be dead by the time you're 45. So I said, okay, what do you want me to do? He says, get a hobby. I go, I'm from Chicago. A hobby, like stamp collecting or. So he said, try fishing. I said, fishing, all we had was pavement up in Chicago. So I went down, took the kids, rented a place, got a rowboat, went out there on the point, said, let's go 40 feet, drop a worm, sit there, relax. And about 7 o'clock, the whole earth opened up and these bass boats came flying out of the creek. I rowed back. I asked the owner, I said, what was that? They said, well, it's a fishing tournament. I said, fishing tournament? They fish for money? And he goes, yeah. And so I got involved in fishing. And I went back. I swear I spent the next 2 years working, but coming home, taking the kids out to the games and everything like that, and then spending all my time studying fishing. And so what I do to unwind and what I do to try to stay on track and balance is raise a family and fish like crazy.
Fish like crazy. That's good stuff. I don't mind going fishing as long as they're biting. See, I'm kind of impatient, so.
And I like it tough because I got a chance to beat the pros if it's tough.
There you go. Well, that's good stuff. Now, when you when you're relaxing, going on vacation, you're kind of checking out. It's not maybe part of the normal, daily or weekly activities. Are there places you like to go on vacation to unwind?
We're very fortunate to live in the Ozarks. The Ozark is probably one of the best kept secrets in the world. It's just gorgeous country, loaded with mountains, loaded with fresh water, clear water. I travel to some of the most gorgeous places in the world and can't wait to get back here. I mean, I can't tell you how relaxing it is to be on Table Rock Lake or to be on a bass boat when it's 30 degrees and crank that 300 horsepower motor up and freeze your butt off and know what life is all about.
That sounds like a blast. Good stuff. It's interesting. I've had, I think, 3 separate guests over the last couple months that have mentioned the Ozarks. And, that's I may have to go check that out. And, in my mind, I don't know what I think when I think Missouri, but for some reason I'm not thinking, necessarily beautiful lakes and stuff like that. I just ignorant to the to what all you have to offer out there. So I have to go check those things out. Now, rest. You again, you're hard charging and you've been at it for a while now. But what type of sleep does it take for you to fully recover and be back on track the next day?
What's really sad is that if I tell you, I'm going to make your readers feel sick. 4 to 6 hours.
Oh my goodness, that is unbelievable. There's a few people I've talked to like that can do 4, 5, 6 hours. Most people it takes 8 or 9, and I'm definitely envious of the ones that can do it on less.
Well, those bass tournaments started like 7 o'clock in the morning, so I got to get up at 4 and boat up to the boat up to the truck. Does it sound like the Ozarks? And get down there for the race.
Absolutely. No, that is great stuff. Now, do you prefer to read or do you like to listen to things?
Most people around here will tell you I prefer to talk. Okay.
Well, that's great because that's why we got you on the show today. So it's good that you can do that for sure.
But I'm obsessed with business, and I will read and watch anything that is totally related to business. I am a business geek. I will flip it on in the morning, and I'm interested in world markets and globalizations and shifts and purchasing powers and contributions that people make. And, I'm a business junkie.
I noticed that one of your favorite books was Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and when so many people know about that book if they're business and capitalist type folks, but some people are not aware of that. But it is quite a great story there. Do you kind of have a favorite part, or you just like the general theme of the book?
No, the theme is about respecting earned success. And I think the more that you can promote earned success, not the fact that you're just lucky or not the fact that your business succeeded because you had access to roads, the more that you can convince people that they can still have the opportunity to grab the brass ring here, I think the better chance that you're going to be building an overall quality of life. And so I like the book from the standpoint that it kind of highlighted the problems with too much command and control, too much government, too much overhead on the backs of the workers, to the point where, when you're adding so much social overhead and not enough labor hours, you're going to run out of people who are going to be doing the work. And so I'm a real big advocate of allowing people the opportunity to be able to go as far as they can go and then provide them with the resources to be able to get there if they have the you gotta wanna. And I really think that's in some markets and in some discussions, we're losing our you gotta wanna.
Yeah, you gotta wanna. That is really, really great stuff. Jack, if someone wanted to engage, with you, are you a guy that's social at all? Do you have the Facebooks and those types of things?
I have an email, and I do a lot of text messages. My kids are all about Instagrams and Facebooks, and I have Instagram for the grandchildren. But when it comes to social media, I am really a dinosaur.
Well, hey, you know what? I mean, the good news is greatgame.com. I know that kind of tracks back into you for everything. So if someone wanted to, participate in anything, we can always send them to Great Game and definitely engage with you there. Well, I just want to tell you, sir, I am so appreciative of you taking the just taking me up on coming on the show. I've been so impressed over the years with just how you've turned around, made some lemonade out of those lemons back in the 80s, and not just lemonade. I mean, just really knocked it out of the park and changed really the lives of thousands and thousands of people in that community. And it's great to see folks doing what you do. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for being a great American. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Doug, we really appreciate you, and a lot of what you've just imposed on me have been done by so many other people. I mean, this is a very, very big moment, and the more you begin to understand it, the more you begin to realize how many good people there truly are in this world. And I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to talk about it today. Yes,
sir. Well, hey, I tell you what, we appreciate you as well, and we'll wrap up here. But guys, this is Jack Stack, the founder and CEO of SRC Holdings out of Springfield, Missouri. And tune in on Wednesdays to Ambitious Radio, where we interview thought leaders and exciting entrepreneurs changing the faces of their organizations. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. So go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.